just use Facebook, for example. I am constantly getting blocked on Facebook for posting something that this bot seemed to think I said wrong. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
I would always, for example, tell people, never lie. Never lie to the media.
And people don't understand the value of that. Like, I've been on the other side where, we've had a company that, say, the portfolio manager or the management really wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing.
These days, so many people are working remotely from their farm in Vermont, and they may have an audience of 10 million on their podcast and be very influential to your clients in their industry. But you can't just ask them to meet you for a drink.
It's media networking breakfast. You have 1 hour.
How do you prepare your own clients?
Well, we want to make sure that we're prepared for all your questions. I don't want to leave you with a question that's not in. So tell me what topics or questions you have so we can make sure we're prepared.
Let's talk about the future of the media. I'm not one of these who says, oh, things were so much better the good old days. There was plenty of problems with the old days.
Yeah. I mean, just giving you an example, we had a client where we made a social media post. And again, we posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and in various groups and hashtags and try to get it in front of the right audience. And it was telling a great story, but nobody seemed to care.
I come from the school of thought that says a reporter calls, you call them back. The world of investor relations, public relations, it has changed dramatically in the last 40 years, 30 years, 20 years. In some ways, in the last year, it's changed with certain CEOs taking over major platforms like Twitter X. Our special guest today has seen it all. She's living in the trenches as a practitioner on the agency side, internal side. She is intimately involved with every aspect of public relations, marketing, investor relations, and she's the author of Real Investor Relations, Public Relations. Very happy to bring to the show today our special guest, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. Patricia, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, we're streaming live today on all social media, plus Amazon. Special hello to our friends on Amazon. We're going to show the book, and it's there in your carousel for those of you watching on Amazon. You can also see it right here. It's Real Investor Public Relations to help you get started fast. But before we get too fast, let's go into a little history here. Patricia, you and I think, got involved in investor relations, public relations, maybe the same time. Maybe I beat you by a few years, but I started doing that sort of thing in 1984. And wow, the world has changed. My first 20 years being involved with investor relations, public relations, media training, I would always, for example, tell people, never lie. Never lie to the media. Once you've done it, it destroys your credibility. You'll never get a benefit of the doubt. You'll never be rewarded. You'll never get extra coverage. Well, it was about 15 or 20 years ago, I asked myself, I want people to be ethical, but I can't ethically tell people that anymore because I'm seeing examples of this not being the case. And I don't want to get into politics right now, that's for sure. But there was a particular person who was the CEO of a publicly traded casino company, had a lot of other business ventures. And I noticed that every time he told big lies, he wasn't punished. In fact, TV networks said, not only are we not going to kick you off the air, we're going to give you your own TV show. So again, we're not here to get into any politics and talk about particular political characters, but I'd like to get your sense of where the biggest changes have been in the world of investor relations for publicly traded companies, and where you think we're headed. And even since this book was published, Real Investor Public Relations, to help you get started fast.
Well, it definitely has changed. I mean, I wasn't too much further beyond you when I started all of this. And, this was kind of when internet was sort of new. Reg FD wasn't a thing back then and whatnot. And it's kind of like
and we should disclose for people who don't follow things quite as closely, regulation fair disclosure, meaning if you're the CEO of a company, you can't just call Martha Stewart and say, hey, the stock's going to tank. We didn't get approved to sell. You have to let all that information be disclosed to the whole world.
right, at the
I
same
hope you
time.
feel like that's a safe
Right,
summary of that rule.
right. But, unfortunately, the SEC isn't following everybody around in their pockets. So that doesn't mean lunches don't happen and, all that stuff. I've seen, again, just like yourself, where favors are given and, it's not right. It's unethical, but, there's really no big brother stopping this. They try, but it's nowadays there's loopholes to everything under the sun. Even in terms of, say, investor relations, where your main goal is to present your company, your product, whatnot, to the investment community, both retail and institutional, as well as analysts and brokers. And, do they do it the way they should? No. I mean, I come in and I'm trying to guide the companies as best I could. And the companies that I've represented, we've really gone above and beyond. We have like conference calls, we have lunches, and I'm there making sure that everything you're saying is not, is public information. But what happens when I'm gone is a whole other story. But when I'm there, we make sure that they're doing the right thing. And people don't understand the value of that. Like, I've been on the other side where, we've had a company that, say, the portfolio manager or the management really wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And the investors are saying, okay, especially the big institutional investors, they're saying, well, we have, millions invested in you and you're not really paying attention, you're not doing the right thing. Well, then the activist campaign comes in. Well, now, it's funny, we've had some of the biggest institutional investors, and now when there's a proxy fight, we're on the other side saying, okay, can we talk to you? And they're like, I don't want to talk to you. I've been trying to reach out to you for the past 10 years. You've completely ignored me. Now, because you want my vote, you want to talk to me. So, we've come in and we've really helped a lot of the clients that we've worked with, bridge that gap, keep constant communication. And the funny part is, most of the institutional holders, they don't really need a call, but they appreciate being asked. And they don't realize like the value. Like, that's one thing that a lot of people don't fully understand, the value of investor relations, especially when you have a company where the management owns more than 60% of the overall shares. Their attitude is, I don't care what people think. They can't do anything to me. We own the majority. But, that's the whole point of having investors. You want to bridge that gap. You want to have open communication. You want to tell your story. You want to hear their feedback. Like, we've done perception studies where the story you're telling isn't at all what they're hearing. So maybe we need to change it a little bit, but you have to care, So again, I come in and I'm kind of like the big brother. Let's make this happen. Let's make this work for everybody. And some of these companies, their stock price has like quadrupled sometimes because people are really happy to have a voice and understand that their opinion matters and that you value their investment and whatnot. So it's not just a matter of, putting out a quarterly report or putting out an annual report and a quarterly press release. There's a lot more involved in that. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a process, So I guess that's one of the biggest hurdles that people don't fully understand. You don't just hire an IR person and check off a box and say, okay, we're good. You have to really do the work and, see the value in it. And it's a process. It happens every day, every week. If a crisis comes up, like we were representing an oil company at one point, it's gone back years ago, and I guess there was like an oil tank leak, and it all of a sudden, all of the oil tanks are dive bombing. Okay, calm down. We can fix this. You're prepared for this. It wasn't anything you did, but we can fix this. We could, and it was fine. But if you just wake up one day and say, oh my God, like I look at the stock market and my $20 a share stock is now 15 cents, you have to be prepared for this sort of stuff. So I always say it's a process, and, you have to stick with people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
speaking of knowing what they're doing, we are speaking with the author of Real Investor Public Relations to help you get started. We should point out, this is not some academic perspective from someone who's just writing from theory. You are an active practitioner. You're the founder and CEO of Prime Investors. Now, you have courses available, you have books, but the main thing is professional services, public relations, investor relations, marketing services, the full service agency for companies. I'm assuming mostly publicly traded companies if you're doing investor relations?
Yeah, for the investor relations side, yeah, publicly traded companies. And then the PR and marketing is anybody who needs exposure.
Okay. Now you just talked about constant communication. Everyone has biases, and I'll admit I come from, I guess it's considered old school or quaint now. I come from the school of thought that says a reporter calls, you call them back. Not next week, not an email, I'm busy, but you actually call them back same day, unless you're about to have an operation, same hour.
Right.
And even if they want to talk to you about something that isn't necessarily going to make you look good, because you do that to keep the flow of information going, so that even if it's a negative story, I'd much rather have a negative story where it's 9 quotes out of 10 are negative about me, and 1 is me saying why I'm great, than to have a story where there's 10 quotes saying I'm awful, and then the final thing in the story saying, and TJ Walker is so awful and guilty he refused to return our calls. That's my school of thought. That's kind of been the dominant school of thought. I won't say universal, but the majority among a lot of investor relations professionals. Keep the conversation flowing, be accessible, put your phone numbers on press releases, let people actually talk to the CEO or whoever is the most authoritative on that topic. Don't hide from the media, don't hide behind press releases. But now we live in a world where Elon Musk famously, sort of flamboyantly says, we're going to get rid of our media department. And if reporters want a question, sometimes he'll say, put a nasty emoji saying basically drop dead. You don't even get to ask questions. Just take what I say. And he seems to be rewarded very nicely by the investment community, by his valuations, by other media. So it doesn't work for everyone, obviously. But where are you seeing this divide between so many people now almost want to run a political style campaign?
Right.
They want to bash the media. Famously, Jason Calacanis, a famed Silicon Valley investor, says he's now advising startups, don't talk to mainstream media, only talk to podcasters who are sympathetic to you. What do you think of these developments?
The whole landscape's changed a bit, because years ago you had reporters that were vetted and they did their research and they were actually quality interviews. And now, unfortunately, the media landscape's changed, where I get people who come on board and say, okay, well, we want to be on the cover of Forbes tomorrow. Sure, 20 grand, I'll have you on it by Friday. That's the world we live in now. So the media is not always the same, where maybe you'll get mom and pops who are writing about a story, but that's okay too, because you can promote that. But now in terms of, say, like Elon Musk, I think what's happening now is people are realizing sometimes you have to take the good with the bad. Maybe the spokesperson is horrible. Maybe he's just all over the place. But now, on the other hand, how's the stock doing? So years ago, they wouldn't have picked a happy medium. They would have said, I'm investing. This is what I want. Make it happen, or we're going someplace else. But now I think people are starting, everybody has a voice now. So everybody's starting to say, okay, we might not get what we want, but if everything else is okay and our stock is doing really well, even though he's not the greatest spokesperson and may not answer my question, at the end of the day, I'm seeing tremendous ROI. So we'll kind of suck it up and just deal with it, which is definitely different from how it used to be. But I think people are trying to find a happy medium in that space, where that's where, like, at least for me, I come in where my phone rings off the hook. Like the 800 numbers that you call, they ring on my desk and I will answer. I will call you right back. It gets a little tricky. Like even my business card has my cell number. Unfortunately, I very rarely pick up any numbers anymore because I'm spammed out of control. Leave a message, you will get my instant return, But I do get people who say, oh, I'm so glad you called me back. I have been trying to reach the CEO. I've been trying to reach so-and-so. I've left countless messages. Not a single person calls me back. Well, then let me get an answer for you. That's my job. That's what I'm paid for. I will get you an answer. I will get you someone to speak to. But even I have to jump through hoops to try to get somebody to respond to me, because they just don't want to deal with it sometimes. But
I got to ask you about that, because I do know a lot of public relations professionals, investor relations professionals who are smart, intelligent, hardworking, have a lot of experience. But after 10 years or so, and I was guilty of it. I mean, I never had a lengthy career just doing public relations, but I've had bouts of it. After a while, most, I won't say all, but most people do not actually want to pick up the phone and pitch a reporter or a producer to feature their client. They want to do strategy and concepting and messaging and crisis communication. But so much of the bread and butter for any company that isn't as well known as Amazon and Tesla,
Right.
you got to actively fight to get attention, especially if you're not a macro cap, a huge, multi-billion dollar company. How do you retain the zeal and the excitement to still do the fundamentals of PR and IR, which is picking up the phone, or perhaps it's doing, clever emails or text to get in front of the media?
I guess for me, call me crazy, call me a nerd. I actually love doing this. I've been doing this 35 years, but I love being creative. So whenever something comes out, I'm like, all right, what can I do to make this different from everybody else? And I've had great success with that mindset. So, it's not just taking a screenshot of what I pitched this person. I'm pitching the same thing to 50,000 people. What are they writing about? How are you unique to that story? How can you help build the story he's trying to say, even if it's not all about you, but they're quoting you in it? It's a start, because little by little, the reporters will start saying, all right, let me get back to this person. They seem to kind of fall in line with what I'm writing about. The end of the day, though, it all boils down to relationships. So you want to build a relationship with the reporter. So it's not constantly pitching them, especially on the agency side. I can have 10 clients. I don't want to keep pitching the same reporter 10 different things. He's going to block me. He's going to say, I don't have the time or the patience for this. Yeah. So building that rapport and saying,
what's the best way to build relationships with reporters these days? I remember I would occasionally, I could take a reporter to lunch at Michael's at Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah,
and that was fun. There were days when I could take a reporter to the Four Seasons. I remember the first time I went to the Four Seasons restaurant, which, full disclosure, is out of business now, but they were a client of mine. And I walked in, and there was Walter Cronkite. There was Oprah Winfrey. And I wasn't at their table,
right?
But there was a tradition. That's literally where the power lunch was coined, that phrase. Right. These days, so many people are working remotely from their farm in Vermont, and they may have an audience of 10 million on their podcast and be very influential to your clients in their industry, but you can't just ask them to meet you for a drink. How do you build these relationships with media these days?
You are right. That was the thing for decades, of just taking people to lunch. But I've actually, not as many as they should, but there are some places that have, I've gone to a couple in Manhattan. It's media networking breakfast. You have 1 hour, and the crazy part is, because you have all PR people attending these things. So, each reporter will be surrounded by, hundreds of people pitching the same thing. But it's, if you have a good story, like the funny part is, I'll come with a book, and I'm not just here flashing my book, but it just happens to come up in the little conversation. And, what is everybody else going to say?
Speaking of which, again, those of you watching on Amazon Live, one click and you can buy the book. It's on your carousel, depending on whether you're looking at a phone or an iPad, a tablet, or a computer. It's either going to be the left side of your screen, the right side, or the bottom. With one click, you can buy it. I'm showing the screen image here from my own computer, but the book is Real Investor Public Relations, to help you get started fast. And the author is a well-known, highly seasoned, credentialed practitioner of the IR and PR arts, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider, who is our guest today. Patricia, I want to give you something a little bit different from what a lot of podcasts do. We're all about empowering people to communicate more effectively, to be bolder with it, to be more comfortable with it. And so we openly embrace self-promotion. So I want to give you 90 seconds to pitch away at your book. Say anything you want. Give people any reason whatsoever to promote their book, to buy your book, and what value they'll get for their business. So I'm actually going to go off screen and let you just promote incessantly for the next 90 seconds, starting now.
Okay, thank you. Well, like I say, I've helped other people. I was even somebody's thesis, interviewing me was their thesis. I'm going to tell you not what you want to hear, but how it is. I love what I do. I've been doing this 35 years. Love, love, love the creativity about it and coming up with stories and finding unique ways. And I do, I put various tidbits of information in here. Just, various things that I've done, through my 35-year career. And it's point blank on how you relate to people, how you can pitch a story, who to interact with, and how you go about doing it, because the whole industry and landscape's changed. But yeah, I mean, I am a little unique that I work with clients around the globe in just about every niche under the sun. So I have that experience of tailoring stories a little differently for each different niche and each different type of audience, where somebody else might be in a healthcare PR, healthcare IR, whatnot, and that's totally fine. But each audience is different, and you have to think of how can I get my story in front of them. With the investors, how do I make the story, even if the stock is doing bad, how do I twist that? Well, that's a great buying opportunity. Buy low, sell high. You have to just be creative in how you can tell the story. And, that's kind of what I do. I even in the PR and the marketing side, what makes you stand out from someone else? You could be, I don't work for them, but say Coca-Cola, and now you're a new soda company. Well, you're the same as everybody else. So how do I make you different? And you find that unique way and you pitch that story. And, I just love doing that. I think this is so much fun. I'm thinking, how can I make you stand apart from everybody else? And then like he was mentioning, the landscape's changed, the media's changed. So how do you build that relationship with people? You network the heck out of yourself. I go to every event. I even network with other, people in this industry, because somebody might only be doing PR or IR for healthcare or technology, and maybe they have someone in finance that can use my help. And you never know. So it's always good to network. You never know who knows somebody. And the same with, say, social media. I post on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Would my ideal client or prospect or investor for a client be on those? Probably not all of them, but you know what? You never know who knows somebody. I can have a client who is in the investment niche, and I happen to post this on TikTok, say, for example, and, it's Thanksgiving and grandma's talking at Thanksgiving about how Papa passed away and she has this retirement. She doesn't know what to do with it. And Jamie says, I did see something online. You might want to check them out. You never know who knows somebody. So you have to kind of be all over the place and really just tailor your stories differently. They're going to be different for each medium that you post things on. Your story is going to change, whether you're talking to an institutional investor or a retail investor, analyst, broker. Who are they following? So it's kind of everything in a big nutshell.
Fantastic. And we should point out to viewers and listeners, I didn't tell you this was coming. I gave you the opportunity and you took it and ran with it. And I'm impressed for a couple of reasons, because A, it was coherent and made sense and really described things in simple terms. B, because you're in a profession where a lot of people are guilty of the old adage, the cobbler's children wear no shoes. A lot of PR people, I find, are the worst at promoting themselves. They are reluctant to even go on a podcast or any interview. So hats off to you on that. How do you prepare your own clients for interviews? I mean, that's, full disclosures, that's my traditional business. Is I've done media training quite often. PR firms, IR firms hire me to train their clients, right, but most do it in-house. How do you prepare your clients to be able to articulate the vision of their company, their value, answer questions confidently, right, whether it's an easy softball interview or a tough confrontational TV live interview?
Yeah. So say, for example, if we were doing a webinar, what I do then is I'll reach out to the audience who's already, registered and say, well, we want to make sure that we're prepared for all your questions. I don't want to leave you with a question that's not answered. So tell me what topics or questions you have so we can make sure we're prepared. So at least now you have a clue of what people are going to ask. Of course, you're going to have someone who asks something that you're not familiar with. But I always try to say, answer as honest as you can. It's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm going to get right back to you with that, blah, blah, blah. I think, I try to reach out to everybody. I always do perception studies just to find out what people are thinking, what they feel, what kind of things that they're unsure about, so that you make sure you're giving them everything they need and they want. Because like I said, even with institutional investors and retail investors, I remember doing a perception study and they were seeing—
Just 1 second. We have to sign off from Amazon right now. We do want to say a special thanks to Amazon And to the people joining us on Amazon Live, thank you for stopping by. Again, if you want to get the book, one click. You see it on your carousel right now. You can take a look at the book, and we'll just flash it up here for anyone else watching on other platforms. It's called Real Investor Public Relations by Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. So you can take a look at that right now, and that is available to you. Okay, we're going to officially sign off from Amazon. Again, thanks, Amazon. And okay, so now we can be a little more expansive. We can talk about your website, and we will just flash that up for people again. It's pristineadvisors.com.
And advisors, ERS.
Yeah. Now I did see that, and I said, do I ask her how many people want to spell an O and how much confusion, or is that too tedious? But since you brought it up, in retrospect, has that been a confusing name, and has that caused any problems?
It has been, and I always stress when I tell people email or website, it's ERS. The ironic part is, it's amazing how people just don't even pay attention. Like, even when people are on LinkedIn or whatnot, they're pitching me the same services I do. And I'm like, I'm not a financial advisor. Did you even read what it is I do? So I was trying to, I know you could spell it either way, but I was trying to differentiate ourselves that we're not financial advisors. We advise our clients, but I don't know. It's just trying to find a happy medium in that sense too. But yeah, a lot of people just don't pay attention.
And I've had clients where this issue comes up. I've looked it up in the dictionary, and right now I forgot. Tell everyone the difference between advisor with an O versus advisor with an E.
I know it could go either way. I always look at advisors with an O as I always look at financial advisors, maybe because I've been in that niche for half my life. Where advisors, I'm just advising you on what I think you should do. Where an advisor is advising you on.
Oh, hang on 1 second. We had a little bit of an audio problem there. Did the mic fall over?
Yeah, it did.
We are live. That's part of what makes live media interviews fun and exciting. I mean, I've been in interviews, I'm sure you've had with clients, where the lights have gone out. I was once at NBC and being interviewed from MSNBC when they were still in New Jersey. They asked me a question. I'm here with my earpiece, and the two camera operators start screaming at each other over whose turn it is to go on a cigarette break. So you got to be prepared for anything. And we're glad you're here and game for that. Let's talk about the future of the media. I'm not one of these who says, oh, things were so much better the good old days. There was plenty of problems with the old days. I'm certainly not one of these people who says, oh, all change is bad. Change has benefited me tremendously, because before online training, I had to go out and, sell my wares day by day. I would sell a day of training. If I didn't sell a day of training, I didn't get to eat that day.
Right.
These days, technology has been my friend. I have 2 million online students paying for courses. So whether I work hard all day or I take a month vacation, revenues are still coming in. So I'm not anti-technology. But I do think that I'm not alone in the concern of the evolution of the media, where we seem to be getting to the point where all media is so fragmented. All media is, and now has algorithms programming it to give rewards to outrage. So if you yell the loudest, if you make the least nuanced point of saying something is either the worst possible thing in the history of the world, or the best thing in the world that's going to make you a rich billionaire with a full head of hair by tomorrow, it's everything is rewarded towards those two extremes, not towards reality. So how are you evolving your own practice in terms of your media strategy and what you advise clients, given this very much change of media landscape?
Yeah. I mean, just giving you an example, we had a client where we made a social media post, and again, we posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and in various groups and hashtags, and try to get it in front of the right audience. And it was telling a great story, but nobody seemed to care. We put this music in the background. It became a trending video. Did anybody care about the story, or were they caring about the music? So now I try to tell the story, quality over quantity. It's not about how many followers. And I know other people, like I'll give you an example. There's someone else I know who does, they have internal staff that will all, it's basically the people in the company that are commenting on. So they're becoming like a trending viral thing. But again, it's your internal staff. So have you gotten any
let me is it enough to reach a tipping point where it then does become viral around the world, or is it never get beyond the 40 people, the staffers doing it?
If they do it consistently 24/7, because they got people around the world pitching into all this, it can. But again, it's quality over quantity. So because you have all this, have you gotten any clients from it, new investors from it? How has it shown value? To me, I say quality over quantity. I'd rather have 20 quality people who are interacting with me, really value what I'm saying, can share it with their network, blah, 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 than to say that I had 5 million posts or 5-minute likes.
Let's go deeper there, because Gary Vaynerchuk famously says it's a false dichotomy of quantity versus quality. You need quantity, enough quantity to figure out what the quality is to double down. Now, he famously has, a last count, like 27 full-time staffers who do nothing but record him and are posting, 300 different social media posts a day. But his agency has grown from nothing. He was just a wine guy to supposedly he has more than 1,000 employees and has every kind of major corporation in the world. So it seems to be working for him. But I do notice that so many PR professionals, marketing professionals, communication professionals, when they start posting, they get no audience. Yeah. And, I've posted a lot on my YouTube channel, and if you add up everything over the course of a month, I'll have 100,000 views across all social media platforms. But I have fewer than 20,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel. Whereas there are kids that come on and do a happy dance once, and they've got more than that. What is your take on what it really takes for, whether it's a PR firm, a communications firm, or your clients, to get over that hump of quality and quantity to be meaningful? Because so many, I think the vast majority of organizations, whether they're one-person consultants or small or medium-sized companies, do stuff with social media, whether it's stop or start or too few posts or not enough consistency, but really think, this is doing nothing for us. It seems to be working for some people in our industry, but it sure isn't working for us. Yeah. How do you guide people through that?
We change it up. It's not the same post every single day. We're always like learning and figuring out what's new, what's trending, what's everybody doing, using AI, using video shorts. Then there's, automated things where you're not even in it. You're just putting your voice behind a animated type of video. I know some people who, what was the thing where you watch me watching a video, people were doing that, thinking that was the trending thing.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you have to look at who's your client. Is that really applicable for them? No. That's a little, I won't say silly, because it is great for certain things, but not for like a particular client.
But that brings up a bigger question. What's silly these days versus what's getting any kind of attention that you can then monetize attention? You could certainly make the case Elon Musk does a lot of silly stuff.
But it works.
Meanwhile, he's he's the richest guy in the world and is the CEO of a gazillion publicly traded companies. So is it silly, or is it keeping him top of mind in a way that is really helping him?
Yeah, I use the term silly, but it works for him, and that's great because of his different type of businesses. So I'm thinking of like certain clients that have like a financial oriented company. Their investors, their analyst brokers, they're not going to want to see him doing the happy dance. That's just a different business. So I don't think that would work for them. And even if they did do some happy dance, it might become a trending video, but the quality and quantity, for me, nobody's going to care. Nobody of value for that particular company is going to care. Now, if I had a clothing company as a client and doing something different, fashionista that would be different. We could do TikTok videos. We could do a lot. You have to kind of pick and choose the client and what's more applicable to them and who's their ideal audience. Like I know another financial client we have, we were trying to do, say, 2 posts a day, and they feel that's too much. They want to do like 3 a week. I'm like, okay, I don't agree, but okay, if that's what you want. Like, I'm trying to explain, you know, I don't know. It's trying to get them in front of the right audience. I understand they're a high-end financial company and they don't feel that they should throw themselves out there like, we need people to look at us.
And so how much of that is legitimate versus them just not understanding social media? I mean, Gary, again, I don't mean to overquote Gary Vaynerchuk, but he says, people worry about too much, and you're, 20 times on Twitter. He says 95% of his audience never sees any one piece, and they're not going to see your piece. So you have to put out more just to be seen.
Well, I tried to explain that to this person because for example, let's just say they have 100 followers on LinkedIn, just for example, and I have 50,000. So you only have 100. So your feed is going to show every one of your 100 people. Me, 50,000, I don't have all day to scroll through it all. So just whoever happens to be on there the minute I look at it is who I'm going to see. That's it. I'm not going to sit and spend my day scrolling who posted what today. It's just whoever's on that at that particular time. So you have to throw yourself out there repeatedly if you want to get seen. Some people, especially the old school, they're very hard to get through. But I think I always use the term, people laugh at me when I always say, stay in your lane. You focus on what you do best, run your company. Let me focus on what I do best. I'm going to market the heck out of you, but let me do what I know how to do. So sometimes you have to, it's a slow process getting them to
but the lanes are changing. Let's go a little deeper here. By the way, if you have a question for our guest today, you can put it in the comments section. You can actually join us. Ben, have we posted the link to, if anyone wants to join us right here on the air, they can join us and actually talk to Patricia or me. Ben, let's make sure we share those links in the comments section. But you can also just add your comment right now. Let's talk about this concept of staying in your lane. There is a school of thought now that says every single company in the world needs to think of itself as a media company. Red Bull has a huge media company, but there's a school of thought that says, even if you're a one-person consultant, you need to think of yourself as a media company in terms of your Facebook post, your social, your YouTube, your TikTok, doing a podcast. And you look at a lot of the most successful CEOs these days, Reid Hoffman has a podcast. He's a regular media company. Right. And, really well-known CEOs for decades have at some level done this. I mean, Richard Branson has published more than 20 books. That essentially makes him a publisher, versus the old school, which is to hire someone, agency, you, me, someone to pitch the person to be interviewed on some other media outlet. Now, a lot of people obviously do both, but I am seeing a trend where a lot of the most successful people in the world, successful entrepreneurs, they focus exclusively on building a media outlet with a huge audience. Easier said than done, obviously, but whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube channel, and then they're very selective that, the best PR is having a huge audience, because then media are seeking you out. Mr. Beast doesn't have to have publicists begging reporters to cover him. Right. They need someone just to take the 50 calls that come in every hour from reporters who want to interview him. Now, we can't all be Mr. Beast, but everyone these days could, in fact, do a monthly podcast. Everyone these days could do a weekly 30-minute town hall meeting on YouTube for their stakeholders. To what extent are you seeing more clients saying, hey, I still want to work with you, but I want to actually own my own media distribution, in the sense that it's my podcast, it's my YouTube series, it's my series of books? How are you seeing that shake down with your clients?
Not much. Despite everything that I recommend, again, it depends on the client, what their niche is, what company they are. A lot of them, I even monthly fact sheets is sometimes like pulling teeth. And then I always recommended, especially if, say, it's in an international company. Well, people want to see your face. They want to see the manager. So you could do a 15-minute update. You could do a pre-recorded. You don't even have to do it live. If there's time to do a pre-record update, just say, hey, here's just giving you an update on that means so much to people. So, I try to do the baby steps and say, okay, let's get you out there and let and then people will start, with questions and whatnot. But, all I ever get half the time is we don't have the time. But that's, again, let me do what I do. You do you.
People say that, but then if you ask them, hey, the Wall Street Journal would like to talk to you tomorrow afternoon for a couple of hours about a possible front page. Suddenly they have the time.
Yeah.
If you say, well, CNN or CNBC, I should say, if CNBC would love to have you on Squawk Box tomorrow, it would mean needing to get there 2 hours early at 5 a.m. Suddenly everybody has the time because they see that audience. And what they don't realize is over time, if you're consistently, someone like a Reid Hoffman has a pretty huge audience to his podcast. It didn't happen overnight. And granted, he was already a famous billionaire as a founder of LinkedIn. But with a lot of the social media, if you put in the time, you can reach people over time. But it doesn't get the adrenaline flowing. You got to put on your calendar to interview someone where you might not have any audience versus the limo's coming to pick you up to be on CNBC in 2 hours.
Well, that's why I always stress it's a process. So many people just expect results overnight. It doesn't work that way. It's a process. Like when you tell people, you're not hiring me for a month, this is going to take a couple of years of working and building that value, building that trust, building that momentum. It doesn't happen overnight. And, some that do see that they might hire like an internal person that says, okay, we're going to focus on this. But I don't know if they fully understand that it is a process. It takes time. You have to build this. And, even, Elon Musk and whatnot, this didn't happen overnight. It was a process. They built the trust, they built the value, they built the momentum, and, it can happen. It just doesn't happen.
Let me be a little bit of devil's advocate. You say built trust. Look, I think Elon Musk has clearly accomplished a lot in his career. He's looked at big problems. He's come up with big solutions. But if you look at his track record of what he promises, there's hundreds and hundreds of times where he's promised things and not delivered, or it was 5 years later. At some level, is he playing all the media? Is he playing all of us for suckers? Is the concept of trust irrelevant these days? We've certainly seen the erosion of trust in major institutions throughout our society, whether it's the medical establishment, political, government. There's erosion of trust. I think everyone agrees on that. How does that filter through to what you see your clients doing and what they should be doing? Because I do think a case can be made with Elon Musk that, wow, if you just tell a big enough story that's interesting to people, don't worry about being trustworthy or or honest. Right. You'll just get attention.
Well, I try to always tell my clients, again, be honest. Like I had a portfolio manager who was invested, the stock tanked, but he wasn't asleep at the wheel. He switched the portfolio, blah, blah, blah. So then I made him go out into the public. Okay, we're going to do an interview, live interview, and we're going to tell people. I took a chance. I tried this. Stock went down. My bad. But, I wasn't asleep at the wheel. I quickly reshuffled the portfolio, blah, blah, blah. Now the stock's, trending and it's doing really great. And people were like, they appreciated the honesty. Now they know that you have their best interests at heart, because I had another portfolio manager, the stocks were tanking and they did nothing. And I kept trying to tell them, here's what your peers are doing. Here's what the stock market's doing. You might want to. And I basically got told it's not my job to tell the portfolio manager how to run their company. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, the company closed. Let me do what I do. I'm the one who's talking to your investors. Let me tell you what the issues are. So I think Elon Musk is a whole other story. He's got billions of dollars to try to be on every type of media outlet and buying people off, probably, who knows? But he's a little different story. But I think for the majority of companies out there, be honest, be consistent, tell your story, good, bad, the ugly, tell it, because people want to know that you're paying attention. Nobody has a crystal ball. They can't say what the market's going to do. They can't say what the world's going to do. But knowing that you're on top of this, you have a team backing you, and that you're all paying attention to the markets, paying attention to the world, seeing what's trending, seeing what's not, seeing what potentially is going to happen. And, that gives people a little reassurance, But again, it depends on the audience and the company. Are you a soda company? Are you a e-car company? Are you a financial company? Totally different.
Our special guest today is Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. She has 35 years of experience in the world of corporate communication, public relations, investor relations. She's seen it from inside companies and the agency side, from every perspective. It's not an ivory tower approach. We're very happy that she's our guest today. We're posting a link to all of her social media in the show notes and in the description. If you have questions, you can add comments right here in our live feature right here, and we can talk to you. Now, we're posting links to Pristine Advisors with an E, which is your main corporate website. Now, you're on YouTube, Vimeo, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You have a blog. So we're posting links to all of that. Question, why Vimeo? I've posted on Vimeo in the past, but I'm wondering, are you doing that because that's attracting a different audience? Are you doing that because it's just a more professional place and you're showcasing it on your own corporate website?
God, we did that years ago. To be honest, I don't even know if I remember why, but I think it's just we do everything. We try to figure out where's everybody posting. So we did Vimeo way back when. I think just it was something new, and we figured why not? We'll try it. I mean, like I said, we're always thinking where. Like I just did a survey the other day, and it listed, well, are you on these various social media platforms? There were two that I had never heard of. So now I'm going to go check them out, probably join them too. Will they be valuable? I won't know until I try, but doesn't hurt.
What is valuable for you as a practitioner? Is it LinkedIn? I would guess, but it could be Twitter, it could be Facebook or Instagram. Where do you find the most value as far as not having a huge audience, but having A, meaningful conversations or interactions with people, B, possible leads that lead to interviews for your clients, C, possible leads of people wanting to connect with you and possibly hire you?
Right. I'd say for the most part, I'd said the top three would be LinkedIn, Twitter, and I guess Facebook. But all that's changed too. Like on LinkedIn, years ago, it was companies on there and it was a business networking platform. But I remember when I said with my name, ORS Advisors, I get thousands of requests a week of people pitching me what I do. And scammers, they are off the charts on there. I actually just did a post about it yesterday. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see it. So it's valuable still, but not as much as it used to be.
They've changed. There used to be, I guess, tools or scrapers you could get.
Right.
So if you were trying to raise money for your fund,
right.
you could pull, I guess, 1,000 financial advisors and be able to send them messages in a day saying, please, I need to have a meeting with you. And you send it to 1,000 and you'll get 6 meetings a day and fill up your calendar and you get one of them as a client. So it worked. And then I believe, I haven't used this, but I understand they then reduced it to 100, solved some of the problem, but I get pitched every single day. You may appreciate this. I get pitched every single day like you do for people who want meetings with me. And you know what I do now is I tell all of them, yes, I'm happy to have a meeting with you right now with my digital clone. And if I hear anything relevant, I'll reach back to you.
Right.
So they get to go to my clone and just have a conversation with me. And it's available in every. This is the communication tool I'm most excited about. Right. Like you, I've seen a lot of changes in the media world, and I got in, 1984. So we're talking really pre-internet in any meaningful way. So I'm very excited about cloning technology. But I've got one that is just for, information and customer support. I think this is my communication one, where they can just come on and talk to me, and I'll answer it pretty much the way I would if they actually talk to me.
Right.
And it'll be completely conversational. TJ, can you hear me today? I don't know why you're not. TJ, I would like to pitch you on my marketing services. Are you are you looking for more marketing services?
TJ, it seems you didn't share the audio. We can't hear your
Oh, I
phone.
forgot to share the audio. Excuse me. Let me stop that a moment. So that must have looked completely stupid to everyone else watching that. Ben, while you're there, I'm not seeing the links for anyone who wants to join us today in the comments. Can you go ahead and post that? Let me do my share one more time, because it occasionally someone will say, well, how dare you ask that I talk to your clone? I'm like, let me get this straight. I don't know you. You want an hour of my time.
Really? Tell me why.
Pitch
Is it
me
worth
on
my
something.
time? Yeah.
And you can't spend 3 minutes telling me a little more about what you do in a way that I would find, would let me know you're useful or not. So I have absolutely no problem asking people to do this. So again, here's the clone, and I should have the correct audio on. Ben, tell me if I don't. Hi, TJ. Can you hear me? Hey there. I can definitely hear you loud and clear. So TJ, I'm a marketer, and I would like to sell you marketing services. Are you currently in the market for hiring outside marketing consultants? Offer. I appreciate your initiative in reaching out, but I'm not currently looking to hire out marketing consultants. However, I'm always interested in hearing about innovative marketing strategies and ideas. What unique approach or service do you offer that sets you apart in the marketing world? I'm curious. So I will say some people actually do it. And I will review it. And I can, if I want to watch the whole conversation, I can, but it also turns it into a transcript.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
So if I say that they're not really saying anything interesting, so I want to set up a live call. Well, it only takes me 3 seconds to figure out. I don't even need to read the rest. I'm certainly not going to reach out to them.
Right.
The last thing I want to do is fill my calendar with Zoom calls to be pitched.
Right. I always get the person who just writes and says, oh, I see we have mutual people in common. I love learning from people. Okay, cool. I'll accept it. The minute the pitch comes through, that I just unfriend instantly, because I'm like, you didn't even take them. If you offer me something valuable, great. But if you're pitching me what I do, did you even read my profile? Like, what is this?
So what is the best? Because I don't think I'm necessarily doing it the right way. What is the best practice for accepting people on LinkedIn? There's a school of thought that says only accept people that you either know, or only accept people that you think this is exactly the sort of either client I would like to have or high-level industry person that could be a valuable resource, and just reject everyone else or not accept. There's another school of thought that says, accept everyone, but if they say something wrong, delete them. Yeah. There's another school of thought that said, so part of the school of thought is that it starts to see algorithms. If other people come and they see, you're only friends with Elon Musk and Reid Hoffman, you're a big shot, they're more likely to want to connect with you. If they see you've said yes to every kind of marketing and meeting, person who sets up meetings, right, you're not going to look serious to them, and they're not going to want to reach out to you. Right. And there's another school of thought that says, just say yes to everyone, because then there's a greater chance that they will see your social media post and ignore any pitch. Just don't look at it. You have to delete. So where do you fall, and what's your rationale?
For me, when I get a pitch, the first thing I do is look at their title. So if it says, YouTube promoter, I already know what you're going to pitch me, so I just ignore that. If someone's in marketing or they're CEO of a company, which is another tricky one, because they could say CEO of a company, but meanwhile it's a CEO of a company trying to pitch me something that I already do. But normally I'm totally friends with people in IRP or marketing also, because we learn from each other. And like I said, I might represent a client. You don't, you might represent a client. We can, whatever. So I'm not, privy to pushing people away. But if they look like their title would be somebody that I think I might find value, I have no problem connecting. But the minute you could just see instantly, it's like the minute you connect, it's an hour later, I'm getting a pitch. If it's anything that I think will be of value, I'll answer and we'll have a dialogue, and that's all great. But if it's something that you're pitching me and I just it just unfriend the connect. I just unconnect. I don't even explain. It's just like we're done. I mean, but I mean, it is tricky because I don't know what the right answer is. They have all these, automated things that will accept friends and pitches and blah blah blah. But even that's a little tricky because I did that at one point, but I think it only goes up to 1,000. I've got several thousand, so it only gets you part way, and then it stops, and then like even if you look up people. Say you look up your connections, sometimes they're in their duplicate, so you can't keep pitching the same person again. I don't know how they set it up, but it is work. It's time consuming, but if you want to get value, you have to put in the time. But like I said, I don't.
Well, let's talk about time, because some people just don't seem to mind. They're wired in a way. They can work 20 hours a day. They can wake up at 3 a.m. and do 20 tweets and go back, and doesn't bother them. Right. I find for me and most people, it's like putting your brain in a blender, and it destroys productivity. I mean, I personally post 3 times a day, sometimes more. I mean, right now we're posting on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, a couple of others. So it would be 4 times a day. But personally, I don't actually go to any of them, except maybe 5 minutes in the morning to catch up. And then I do look at my Facebook page for my online course students, because they post videos for me to critique. So I'll give some attention to that. But I have just found personally, and as a sort of a media addict my whole life, I can't even start getting into Twitter, because then I can't think about anything else. It jumbles the brain. It destroys my own productivity. How much time do you actually spend looking at Twitter and looking at Facebook and LinkedIn on a daily basis?
Not much. They do have automated things. So say for myself and clients, you have automated programs that you can go the first of the month and program for the whole month worth of posting. And it'll do that automatic. I can say post every Monday to Friday from, at these hours each day, blah, blah, blah.
Is that worth anything? I mean, there are a lot of experts who say you do that. Yeah, you can do it, but it's really not going to get you anything.
It gets the post out there. But I always say it's not just about posting. Now you want to create the dialogue. So you want to also see who's posting similar things or in that niche, and you want to comment with them and interact with them and share your posts. So that's where I say you need a team of people to help with that. Because if I sat there and did this all day long, that's going to be 20 hours out of my 24 a day. It's a lot. You have different social media platforms. So you need a team of people. I like the automation because especially being on the agency side, I might have several clients that I'm posting several times a day, and I know what the hours that they're going to go. And once it's out there, now I can check and, or you have your team check and say, okay, did anybody interact with them? Why not? Did I post in the right groups? Did I have the right hashtags? Who's posting similar stuff? Let me share my post with them. Let's create the dialogue. I'll answer them and see if they answer me. Maybe I'll ask a question. What do you think about this? Or when people do comment, it's not just a thanks. Oh, I appreciate your perspective. I do agree with you. What do you think of this? And then you create that dialogue where you're getting back and forth with answers and tagging people in it too. I mean, I know some people that do that with me. Once a week, they'll post something and they'll tag like a specific 100 people because they know we're going to respond. But now you're creating that interaction. And again, that goes to the algorithms and whatnot. And, so it's a process and it's a lot of work. But if you have people to help and do that, it's kind of all necessary.
Now, you mentioned something a moment ago, the bots. I mean, there are a lot of people worried about, some say as much as 70% of all posts and shares on a place like LinkedIn are all controlled by algorithms and bots and foreign countries trying to manipulate things. There's more and more concern about authenticity of video, deep fakes. It is a problem, and I don't want to be too hypocritical because I am also a part of it. For example, I have a new course here on the Udemy platform, Constructive Debates in the Workplace. It has 1,000+ students. It's highly rated, and everything on the course is, in fact, have you ever been in a meeting where you wanted to speak? It's entirely generated by artificial intelligence. It's the clone you just saw, I had my clone do an entire course. And so far, the ratings have been very high. And I do disclose to people that it is. But do you worry that we're getting to the point where so much of social media is two bots fighting it out? And what actually happened there?
Yeah.
Forget changing a mind. Did an actual human mind even receive the information?
It is a little tricky, like with the bots. I did the same. I did a clone for one of my clients at one point. You can, I think if you disclose that it's not you, it's fine. They didn't like it because you can see the wording, the mouth, that it wasn't them, and they thought it would look exactly like them, and they weren't cool with the fact that it showed it wasn't. But
I mean, I have to ask, how long ago was that?
that was about a year ago.
Okay, so it's gotten a lot better
Yeah.
since then.
But I've seen, like, even Elon Musk, I've seen videos of him, and people are like, oh my God, can you believe he said that? I'm like, that's not him. Look at his mouth. Like, they don't disclose that that's not him, but you can tell it's not him.
The deep
So
fakes.
it's like, yeah, so, but in terms of like the bots, speaking to the bots, I mean, it is tricky. I don't, it's always a work in progress, and I don't agree with a lot of it, but it's kind of like, you don't know what's real. You don't know what's not. You don't know, like, all these algorithms, like even with, just use Facebook, for example. I am constantly getting blocked on Facebook for posting something that this bot seemed to think I said wrong. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I posted nothing. I posted like my own picture. It's just insane. But yet I see all the other crap that's on there sometimes, and I'm like, but that was okay. So, but then there's no one to talk to. It's got a long way to go.
That's why the companies are profitable. They don't have to have any staff doing things like that.
Insane.
And I won't bore you with the tedious details, but I got a YouTube channel banished, just deleted overnight about 10 years ago they still won't even tell me why. So
I had a Twitter account that it was I had several Twitter accounts because of various clients, and whatever number they had on it, I no longer have. And I didn't know the email that was used for that one. So I got locked out of it. Not a single person you can go to for help.
No.
I wrote, this took probably about a good 9 months of me tearing apart notes till I finally found the email that was associated with it. But I was like, it's just a shame that you cannot get any help. And they charge for this now. I'm like, what is this?
It is. I mean, it's their platform. We are just guests, which is one reason why I spend. It's one reason why I spend so much time on my clone, because that's mine, and I can control it's going to my website. Speaking of websites, pristineadvisors.com. Very special thank you to our guest today, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.